Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fourth session of the Ag Ed 101 Learning Series of Roundtable Conversations. Today is December 12th, and today we're going to be talking about work and life balance. I'm Chelcee Mansfield, the Oregon Ag Teachers Association Secretary Treasurer, and we'll have the pleasure of hearing from Lance Hill of Redmond High School today. To start things off, there's Lance, Redmond High School, and myself. Excited to tell you a little bit about balancing that work and balancing life. We're going to touch about the ag education model and transition into a life balance model that Lance has created. He'll continue with the conversation and end today with questions and answers. Ed 101 webinar will be January 9th, and that's on a Tuesday, of course, and that's going to be about working with advisory committees. Start things off, as most of us have known and seen, here's our ag education Venn diagram. We, of course, have the classroom element of the three-circle model where we're teaching students through inquiry-based instruction. The FFA portion as well that focuses on leadership and providing opportunities for student scholarship and in a variety of other elements. And the final aspect is the supervised agricultural experience, or experience-based learning, where students have projects that we facilitate. So between these three models, we can see that there's quite a bit that we do as an agriculture teacher, and what we're going to be focusing on today then is how we can balance this model and also balance a life model. And that's where we're going to introduce Mr. Lance Hill into the conversation, who put on a really great workshop during the Oregon Ag Teachers Association Summer Conference. And so we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Lance. Thank you, Lance.
Well, welcome, everybody. First off, I'd like to thank Chelcee for hosting. The second thing, I'd like to thank Reynolds for this opportunity. I think it's a great way for us to get things out to other teachers. We only get together about twice a year or here and there when we get a chance. So the big thing that we need to realize is that Ag Ed model should be, as our lifeblood. It's our career, it's our lifestyle. And when I really analyzed that particular model, I started to think about, well, there's a whole lot more to that model than meets the eye. And when I put it into perspective, we spend so much time in ag teaching. I know that all first-year teachers, some of what I'm saying, you're looking at me or thinking to yourself that you're absolutely crazy. There is no such thing as a life when you're trying to put together all three components and try to survive. And some of you have families, some don't have families, and there's all these things that crash in. And one of the workshops that I did, that we have 365 days in a year, and some of us work 290 days in a variety of different things. In some way, somehow, we put our families or our other life into that perspective. And when I sat down and looked at our Ag Ed model, I said, wait a minute, there's something more to it. And I did an overlay, and our overlay looks something like this. And I believe that it's important that if we begin to look at how we address our profession, our personal lives, and how we professionally develop or work into leadership roles in OVATA, how we can do all three of those and be successful in our lifestyle and career, and making the harmony with the growth of our family or families and our personal growth, that inspiring things that, hey, I'd like to go get my toes done sometime too. It becomes a struggle. 21 years of this, I think I start to get to a point some have figured out a little bit quicker. I think they might be just a touch smarter. But when you really come down to it, I think that there's some key things that everybody has to realize. We do get taken advantage of. We do have a problem with saying no. Everybody in the community can come to us and say, hey, can you bring me a couple of kids? Or will you volunteer to do this? Or we'll add a new program or we'll add a new activity. Somebody will con us into running for an OVATA office and all this stuff, and then our wives are left out there, our spouses and our kids are left out there going, oh, by the way, we have state wrestling this weekend. What are you going to do? Are you going with us, or are you doing your ag teacher thing? And it's a struggle. And to make that balance, I think, is something that you can do. It's not difficult. You have to choose to do it. You have to be able to look at the individuals around you and say, at times, enough is enough. And I think that that's important. My very first part of ag teaching was simple. What went on the calendar first got done first. Well, where would I make the calendar? At my desk at school. So all of my personal stuff got made second. Yes, I would have some sort of stupid activity on the night of my anniversary and try to put off my wife's dinner until the following weekend. Until she said this one infamous set of words. You know, I realize what I married. And that has always resonated with me. And I believe that it's something that each one of us has to really kind of take into consideration. We can get married to this job, and it's really difficult to pull yourself away. It's not a divorce. You don't have to give up half. That's not what we're trying to say. I love to go elk hunting. I went elk hunting this year. Didn't go to national convention. It starts to fall against each other. The cool part about it is when you start to make those breaks and you make decisions and you do rotations with your schedule, it opens you up to be able to do more and more stuff that you want to do or that you're able to do. And I think that that's important. Let me go to the next slide and kind of give you a little bit of an idea of kind of some of the things that we need to really to bring into perspective. Because if we don't, we have worlds that collide. And it happens. And it sometimes isn't pretty. And there's nothing worse than the look on your child's face when you say, I'm sorry, sweetheart, I'm not going to be able to go to your recital or your band concert tonight. I have, an advisory committee meeting, or I have this, or I have that. What we don't realize is we disappoint the most important people in our lives. But at the same time, if you really look at it, my advisory committee chairman would have my hide if I ever put my job in front of my family. He's proud of all the things that we do. He loved what we do, but he would have my hide if I put my job, my career, my profession in front of my family. So how do we really handle it when worlds collide, when our profession and our personal life start to have issues? I didn't go to NAAE this year. Do I regret it? Yes and no. I got to spend some tremendous quality time with my family doing something important. It didn't fall in the cards for us this year as a family. I wish I was there. Great things happen. I see it, I get it. But I can't allow guilt to kill me because I'll still have more opportunities. Even though my teaching partner came in this morning, unloaded the whole bag. But when my personal life and my professional life start to crash, sometimes we have to make decisions. And I think that you should not feel guilty ever if you put into perspective the needs of your family, the needs of your personal life ahead of things. And that's important to do. Believe me, I used to. This is my love, my passion. This is the only job I ever picked. When I was a junior in high school, I haven't changed my mind whatsoever. But then it comes down to this. Look at what we are today. The active parent and professional. We run around like chickens with our head cuts off. We go to 4 different practices every single week, and somewhere in there, my wife and I try to have dinner, and we do. I love the fact that every one of the breweries here in town likes to serve burgers because we eat burgers once a week. Even though it may be while we drop all the kids off at practice, we still make time for each other. I don't drop the kids off and run back to school and do something else. I leave school at school. When I walk away from school, I'm ready to go home, and I don't take it with me. And these are just personal choices for me, just for me. And it works. I don't work Sundays. I do make an exception with Parley Pro because I'm a little bit psychotic about this Parley Pro thing. But my wife comes in and helps me with Parley Pro. So if anything, I kind of cheat a little bit and we turn it into a Parley Pro date. I never take work home with me. I can't. My kids deserve better than that. My wife deserves it. Plus, we got cows to feed. I can't take the computer with me. So the next slide that I kind of put together, something that kind of culminates some of the practices that we have done, some of the in-services and what have you that I've led. And I think that if ag teachers start to put together a set of laws, a set of principles, and said, in order for me to balance my life, both professionally with my career and my teaching and my OBATA responsibilities, the conferences I'm supposed to go to, all of this stuff. And we haven't even talked about, the livestock auction committee. We haven't talked about advisory committee. We haven't talked about district advisors meetings, all this stuff. At some point in time, you take a step back and you go, wait a minute. Don't be afraid to say no. You have our permission to say no. Do not whatsoever let your job be neglected from saying no. And that's a tough thing to say, because how can I have one on one hand and say no on the other? It's easy. If it doesn't fit in your curriculum, I wouldn't do it. Don't add more to your plate than what you need to do. And if you do need to add some things to it, skip to number 3. Ask for help. We have community service activities from time to time where I can't be there to do that because I'm at a wrestling meet or a baseball tournament or watching the other son play basketball. I got a ton of parents that are willing to step up and supervise. I get them cleared through the school, and it's perfectly fine. It works out really well. It's not giving up my job. It's making my job flexible to fit the needs of my balanced professional and personal life. And we have to think about it in that perspective. I told you in the beginning that I used to take and do the calendar. Whatever went on the calendar first, by God, that was it. Everything else came second. Then I stopped and realized again, that calendar was at school first. My family got neglected. My personal life is snapped out now. No way in the world am I going to schedule something on opening day of deer season. Maybe in 4 years when my boys graduate and go on to college, I'll plan something, but I only have 4 years with them. And that's time for me to unwind. Crying out loud, I got buck fever this year. For the first time in my life, I got buck fever and took a day off of school and went deer hunting. Never done that in my life. And I didn't feel guilty about it. The kids gave me heck about it because they said I didn't look like I was sick, but I did have a buck fever. But these are the 3 principles that I really tried to live by, or that we tried to do. I think they're the 3 most important that work for me. There's a number of different strategies. I hear them all the time about how, you balance your personal life and your work life and all this stuff. Here pretty quick, in another 6 months, the twins will be in FFA with me. Thank God I've got Alyssa here to help me with them. But I also have to realize this. At what point do I again have to make that separation between Mr. Hill and Dad? And I think, again, that's where it comes down to, that I'm not going to be afraid to say, no, we're not going to do those activities. I'm going to schedule our hunting trips, our baseball trips, our family stuff first, and start to fit around the other things that need to be done. We have to, because I'm in 20 years. I got 9 to go, actually 26 trimesters left of teaching. I want to survive. I want to keep it going. If you're a brand new teacher, you got a long haul to go. Make it easy on yourself. And we do that by always asking for help. And it doesn't matter what it is.
So in review, Lance, we're just going to just review real quick what you went over, and then we'll jump into those questions and answers. So I really appreciated your don't be afraid to say no. And I remember when you did that at summer conference, that was really helpful. And that's kind of a good time for all of us to set aside to kind of regroup and get back together, and scheduling your personal life first, and then finally asking for help. I think what Dr. Gardner had put is, if you have questions, please go ahead and post those in the chat box. Lance, one question that I had for you is, what kind of programs or things do you use to help keep organized?
Number one, my phone, making sure that the calendar's updated. Both our school calendar, I mean, I get my school calendar, I get our COD calendar, our Central Oregon District calendar. I get all our calendars on there with that. And then I put little notes in there when we're leaving for deer hunting, when we're doing this, when we're doing that. You know, I mean, it's extremely important. I mean, what's interesting is with the time available that I've been able to open up and do this, I mean, I sit on the MAC Club board because, you know, Logan is on the MAC Club. And so I'm able to sit on that board and help out with it because I have the time to do personal things like this. And I think it's important that we look at that. But the calendar, easy access to the calendar, I think is huge. Communication, most definitely. I mean, guys, sometimes we're not the best communicators, but the calendar on our refrigerator all the time, 24/7, is a must. These are just a few things that help out with it. And then being vocal around your kids and around your parents, they're going to be your biggest critic. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Number one, it's in the POA. If it's not in the POA, I don't have to do it, and I don't want to do it. If we haven't decided to do it, then that's the key to it. But at the same time, all of my parents know that baseball is a huge thing in the spring. And that if I have to miss a baseball game or a tournament because of an FFA activity, that it's a big deal. And the interesting part is that people step up better when they know that, I mean, kids will show up on time. Kids won't waste my time when they know that I'm giving up my family time. And if we address that, I think that's big.
Agreed, for sure. All right, Lance, hey, we think we've got lots pouring in now, so I'm going to ask you a few more. There's a question from Ms. Walker. If you have a teaching partner that's burnt out, how would you recommend rebuilding them and their passion, or any ag teacher at that?
I mean, I don't want to sound odd, or I realize we're professionals, but I'll tell you one thing. Developing a relationship with them outside of the classroom, I think, is one thing. Crap, go have a beer once a week. Go have a beer. Talk about stuff. Get them excited about what they're doing again. If there are certain items that are putting pressure on them and you think you can handle them, go ahead and pull that thing back and say, hey, I got this. I think if you develop that relationship between you and your teaching partner and get excited together about what you're doing. I mean, every Monday morning, 7 o'clock, Alyssa and I meet, and we talk about the week, and we get excited about the stuff, even though there may be stuff that we have to cuss and discuss regarding, you know, what strange new idea the principal has, or, I mean, how are we doing this? If you develop that relationship, I believe it makes a big difference between the two. And to communicate, this is not my program, this is our program, and foster that idea, bring those individuals together. You know, it's been a few weeks or a month or so ago, you know, Alyssa and her husband and my wife, you know, we went and had a beer together, you know, and do those kinds of things so that you show each other that you're on the same page and that you do value a friendship, not just a working relationship. Because I got 45 other teachers in this school I have a working relationship with. My teaching partner in the program has to be my partner, not just another person that teaches with me.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely building that relationship more than just a good rapport. I like that. Another question, would you please address working for free? How does one budget your 10 days when your neighboring ag teacher has as many as 30?
Oh, thanks, Paul. Appreciate the question. This is always a tough one for me. And as Paul, you know, is just about any of a lot of the old dog teachers. There are sometimes we get to a point where we say we're done. You know, every now and then we have to let the principal know that, you know, state fair was free, but we do it because we're highly passionate about kids. yeah, it's difficult to try to foster that same kind of passion with other teachers that either we're with, that we teach with, or local schools that are in the same county. I mean, I get that part where you're stuck at county fair and, oh, it's 4 o'clock and they leave. It's a tough one. I don't know how to address some of the questions. I just know this. I'm not here to make myself look better or be better than any other teacher at Redmond High School. I show up at 7 o'clock in the morning and I leave at whatever time I get done. I don't care what other people are doing, because the most important thing to me is the kids like right now that are sitting in the next room, researching Parley Pro topics. I do my job at a level that takes care of my kids. If there's a struggle, I think advisory committees can handle those things. If you have a good advisory committee, they can have those conversations and, what have you. But sometimes it is difficult with that. I know this, fight for more, fight. Show them every single day how many more hours we're putting in, how many more times we're connecting with kids, how much more that we do with that. Because all of it is this. You stop doing what you should do or what you normally do. You stop putting in those long hours and the kids stop showing up and the numbers go back. And I think you understand where I'm going with this. So sometimes it's our own beast and it's our own fault.
Yeah.
I know I didn't answer that question at all, but anyway.
No, but you did. I think you did. Like you've got to keep track of your hours. And I mean, AET has a great way of tracking that now. And
AET all the way.
That. Yeah.
Yep.
But it was a good transition, Lance, because the next question was for a new program, for new teachers. What would you say to them to prioritize to create a sustainable, effective program within the community? So what's the priorities, I guess?
This is the third program I've either kind of rejuvenated or have taken over and grown. And in that time, I've always believed this. And part of it is my classroom is the place where teaching and learning occurs. Everything outside that for the first year is frosting. It's cherries on top. It's sprinkles. Because if you can't establish the classroom, your curriculum, your classroom management, if you don't do that, I believe in your first year, you're going to teach your first year over and over again until you do get it right. And I would say is focus in on those. Now, one thing I always tell brand teachers, when you get into a brand new program, honestly, my favorite color is blue. I love blue banners. They look good on the wall. And I believe this. They aren't going to see necessarily what you do in the classroom all the time. But one thing that really helps with support, and I cringe to say this, but I will, put a banner on the wall or two your first year. Hopefully it's blue. But we aren't showing them that, you've got kids that are motivated to be successful and that sort of thing. That begins to help, because when they walk in your classroom, they aren't going to see how many kids sit in that classroom every day. They aren't going to see, all the stuff that you do, the cool curriculum things you do, except have it in your class, take pictures and put them on Facebook like crazy. We do. We put videos of cutting up dead stuff. Utilize that like crazy. Your community will see that. But they're also going to want to see, what are you doing FFA-wise? And sad to say, the banners, they kind of are that big thing that people are going to see when they walk in the classroom. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts of things, you develop your curriculum, you develop your classroom, you focus on your freshmen and your sophomores. If seniors are good, you hold on to them. If your seniors are just there, you hold on and work on your classroom.
Yeah. And especially, I think, for those new ag teachers and the new ones that are trying to get programs going, even if you're not even prepared for the competition, if you can even just take those kids and go and get them to see what they can do, I think that is something that is really helpful for buying in and helping you.
You bet. Sometimes your first year of FFA, being an FFA advisor, that first year may be just dragging kids around as a recruitment tool. Once you get them into class and they like the curriculum and you're doing well with that and you're adding those components, I mean, certainly don't overlook SAE. Don't overlook your fair responsibilities, but you get them hooked in the classroom and then you start dragging them around, you're going to grow a program pretty quick.
Agreed. All right, Lance, we've got another question. It says, for the young teacher, and we've heard this question often, definitely OATA professional development is important. And summer conference allows us to regroup and network. However, we know it's at the end of the school year when young teachers are exhausted and really just want a break. Or what if it's your anniversary? How do you justify putting family first when these two equal parts of the three-circle model? Who wins in this case? How do you justify one over the other when the young teacher really wants to vacation because they survived their second difficult year?
Okay, for those of you that are thinking about getting married, number one, look at your calendar a little bit more appropriately. I got married the weekend before deer hunting. There is no FFA activities. So part of it is when you do schedule those big things, some of you aren't going to get around it. I get it. Some of you, chose to get married and what have you during those times. And sometimes it is a struggle. Okay. Those are choices you're going to have to make. And I don't mean to be overly blunt with it, but if you're exhausted at the end of the school year, I'll be honest with you, I love going to summer conference. Okay. Absolutely love it because number one, I get to get away. I get to swing the golf clubs. I get to drink beer. I get to have fun with ag teachers that we compete against every year or all year long. And it's just a time for us to relax and rejuvenate. And I can't tell you how important that part is when it comes to trying to put some of the pieces together. Yeah, I get it. I understand that anniversaries are a struggle or birthdays may be a struggle. And maybe you just mix it up from time to time. I mean, this year I have a really big struggle for myself. I have to go do professional development in Pennsylvania during Ag Teachers Conference. But I'm still doing professional development. Unfortunately, I don't get to do it with all my compadres in the state of Oregon. But it's balances and it's picking and choosing and making decisions that are going to be positive for you and your family.
Completely agree with you, Lance. And I agree that OATA summer conference is a great time for reflection too. So those of you who are still trying to figure out that work-life balance, another good time of year to sit down with people and your professional colleagues and figure out just like this, what they do to make it all work.
Exactly.
With that, not seeing any more questions, but Lance, thank you so much. You always provide such good insight. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Dr. Gardner, for organizing this. We have working with advisory committees January 9th. And it looks like, Lance, I think you're supposed to pick two numbers, if I remember right from Dr. Gardner, to determine who our winners are.
Two numbers between 1 and 20, please, Lance.
I'm going to go with 9 and 13.
Ben Kircher and Caitlin Walker are the winners of the Wilco gift card. Ben Kircher's a tentative level before I award that. But congratulations, everybody. And we'll get those gift cards mailed out to you. Congratulations, Caitlin. Great questions. And Ben Kircher, thank you for your support.
Hey, everybody, have a great holiday. Merry Christmas. Enjoyed being with you today. Thanks, Reynolds.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.